My cousin moved in with us, temporarily. Now my wife sleeps in his room, and I sleep on the couch. It started with a phone call at 11:42 p.m. I remember the time because I was already half asleep, and my wife, Nina, kept nudging me to answer. It was my cousin Eric. Said he was in a bad spot. His lease was up, he just got laid off, and his roommates had basically ghosted him. He sounded tired. Beaten down. Just a couple weeks, man, he said. Just until I get back on my feet. Nina was the one who said yes. He's your family, she told me, pulling the covers tighter. Of course he can stay. I didn't love the idea, but yeah. He was family. We shared bunk beds at grandma's every summer. He was the guy I got drunk with in high school, who bailed me out when I cracked Dad's bumper, who stood next to me at my wedding. When he showed up the next night with 2 garbage bags and a broken duffel, I helped him carry them in. He hugged Nina longer than I expected. I chalked it up to stress. He looked rough, beard patchy, circles under his eyes, too thin. The first few days, he barely left the guest room. Slept late. Took long showers. Nina made him coffee in the mornings. She asked if he needed money. She even started leaving little post-it notes on the bathroom mirror, hang in there, or you've got this. She never did that for me. But whatever. It didn't bother me. Not at first. Not until I came home early one Friday and heard them laughing in the kitchen. Loud, full-belly laughter. The kind she used to have with me. Eric was standing at the stove, shirt off, flipping grilled cheese with one hand and sipping her wine with the other. She had her legs tucked up on the counter, watching him like he was performing. I remember standing there for a second too long. He looked over first. Hey, the man of the house returns. Nina blinked like she forgot I existed. You're home early. Yeah. I was. From that point on, it was like the axis shifted. She started staying up later, said she couldn't sleep, so she'd keep him company watching whatever trash reality show he was into. I'd go to bed alone, and she'd crawl in after 1 a.m. I asked her once if she thought it was weird. Her exact words were, "He's your cousin, not some stranger. Don't be insecure." That word, insecure, started showing up more often. If I asked her why she laughed more with him than with me, I was insecure. If I said I didn't like how he walked around in just his boxers, I was controlling. If I asked why the guest room door was locked in the middle of the day, yeah, you guessed it. I was insecure and paranoid. She told me I was imagining things. Gaslighting. I didn't want to call it that. But I knew what it felt like. And still, I said nothing. Until the night I found my clothes in a trash bag on the porch. That was 3 months after he moved in. She said she needed space to think. That I was suffocating her. That I'd changed. That it wasn't about Eric, it was about us. But Eric was still in my house. He was still in our house. And I was on a friend's couch. But the worst part, 2 weeks later, I came by to grab some stuff I forgot. She wasn't home. He was. And when I opened the door to the guest room, the one that used to be his, it wasn't his anymore. My wedding photo, the one we had on the mantle, was sitting on the nightstand. But someone had torn it in half. Only Nina was in the frame. I stayed quiet for weeks. Didn't tell anyone what happened. Not my parents. Not our mutual friends. Not even my boss, who started asking if I was okay after I showed up to work wearing the same button-down 3 days in a row. I kept thinking, maybe she just needs time. Maybe Eric's a placeholder. Maybe this is all some twisted midlife flinch she'll wake up from. I kept thinking she'd call. She didn't. The first real slap came from my mom. It was a Sunday. I hadn't seen her since the blow-up, and she invited me over for brunch. I figured it was time. Maybe if I told her the truth, I'd stop feeling like a ghost in my own skin. I barely got 5 words in before she cut me off. "Why are you making this harder than it needs to be?" she said. "Nina's doing what's best for her. Don't guilt her for that." I just stared at her. She went on. Said Nina and Eric had explained everything. That I'd been slipping for a while. That I isolated her. That I was emotionally unavailable and cold. My mother repeated those phrases like she'd practiced them. Then she said something that made my stomach turn. "They're good together, you know. It's kind of beautiful, in a weird way. Like fate." Fate? I asked her, point blank, if she knew they were together before I got kicked out. She hesitated. Then she said, "Not officially." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Not because it was funny. Because it felt like something in my brain cracked. She offered me leftover quiche on the way out. I didn't take it. A week later, I got a text from Eric. No context. No explanation. Just a photo. It was Nina. In my hoodie. Standing on the balcony of my apartment, drinking from the mug I'd gotten her on our first trip to Asheville. The caption was 3 words. You good, bro? I didn't respond. Just stared at the screen until my fingers went numb. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a performance. And I was the audience. They were parading around in the ashes of my life like it was some edgy rom-com, like I was the boring first act, and Eric was the cool plot twist she deserved. But the sickest part? They had everyone convinced I deserved it. Our friends stopped inviting me to stuff. Group chats went silent. One of the guys I used to play poker with every Thursday actually said to my face, I mean, you were always kind of intense, man. Like I drove her into his arms. Like I should be grateful they didn't screw on my bed while I was still in it. But I found something. I wasn't even looking. It started when I went back to grab the rest of my things. I had a 20-minute window. She'd left a spare key in the lockbox and told me to be quick. The place smelled different. His cologne, probably. I didn't linger. But when I opened the hall closet, one of his bags was still unzipped. And inside, wedged between a tangle of cords and deodorant sticks, was an old phone. I don't know what made me pick it up. But I did. It lit up. No lock screen. That thing was a graveyard of screenshots. Text threads. Voice memos. Conversations between him and her, before he ever moved in. Conversations about how he's so boring now, and I can't believe I married him just to end up in a rut. How she couldn't wait to feel something again. How Eric said, just wait until I get in that house. He won't see it coming. They planned it. All of it. They planned it. Every eye roll. Every, you're being paranoid. Every, it's not like that. Every late night hangout. Every silent treatment. Every inch of distance between us, it was theater. Coordinated. Executed. I dropped the phone back in the bag like it burned me. My hands were shaking so bad I had to sit down. Right there. On the floor. Between a vacuum and a bucket of old shoes. That's when I knew, I wasn't crazy. They made me feel like I was. But I wasn't. This wasn't some sad accident. This was a hit job. And it was time I started acting like it. After I found that phone, something snapped. Not in a dramatic way. Not some movie moment where I flipped a table and stormed out. Nah. It was quieter than that. Colder. Like a switch inside me got flipped and the power didn't come back on. I walked out of that apartment without saying a word. Left the key in the lockbox like she asked. Let her think I just grabbed my things and vanished. Let them both believe I was still spiraling. Still broken. Still intense, like their little narrative said. But I kept that phone. Charged it up. Dug through every text, every audio file, every half-deleted draft. There were receipts going back months before Eric showed up with his sad little duffel bag. Back when Nina and I were still sleeping in the same bed and sharing Spotify playlists. I found one voice memo that hit me in the gut. She was laughing, this low, giddy kind of laugh I hadn't heard in months. Said, he still leaves his phone unlocked. He trusts me so much it makes me sick. Eric said, good. Let him keep trusting you. She replied, I want to see the look on his face when it finally clicks. When he realizes he was just, background. I played that one 6 times. Then I emailed it to myself. I didn't go full revenge mode. That's not me. But I wasn't going to roll over and play the part they wrote for me. First, I went to my boss. Told him everything, not the messy drama, but the reason I'd been off my game. He let me work remote for a few weeks, which gave me time to lay low and think. Then I reached out to our old friend group. The ones who ghosted me. I didn't beg, didn't whine. Just said, thought you should know the truth. Attached the screenshots. The audio. One simple message, I wasn't the crazy one. Responses started trickling in within hours. One guy, Mark, called me almost immediately. Said, Jesus, man. I had no idea. He told us you were losing it. Said you got violent. Violent. They were telling people I'd snapped. That I was dangerous. That he moved in to keep an eye on me. I asked Mark if he believed that. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, I didn't want to. But they were so convincing. Exactly. They always are. The final thread unraveled at a family barbecue. It was the first one since the fallout, and I wasn't planning to go. But my uncle guilted me into it. Said, You and Eric need to squash this. Blood's thicker, right? Funny. Blood might be thick, but betrayal? That's cement. When I walked into the backyard, people froze like I'd brought a grenade. Eric was at the grill, Nina beside him, wearing my old flannel. The same one she used to steal when we watched movies on the couch. Eric raised his beer like we were still boys. Said, "Look who finally showed up." I smiled. Cold. Controlled. Said, "Thought it'd be nice to see family." Then I handed my mom a flash drive. No explanation. Just pressed it into her palm and walked away. She opened it later that night. I got the call the next morning. She was sobbing. Said she didn't know. Said she felt sick. That she believed every word they fed her. I let her talk. I wasn't angry anymore. I'd passed anger weeks ago. I was just tired. Tired of defending myself in a trial I never signed up for. But something in me still wanted her to understand. So I said, "You chose them when it mattered. That's not something I forget." She cried harder. I didn't. The final blow wasn't mine. It came from the job Eric thought he had lined up. One of the guys in our circle, a mutual friend, worked there. After seeing the receipts, he forwarded the whole mess to HR. Eric never even got the interview. Nina tried damage control. Messaged me a week later like we could suddenly talk. Said, "Can we be adults about this now?" I didn't reply. I just screenshotted the message, sent it to Mark, and said, "Guess she's bored already." Let her feel the silence she handed me. Let them both live in the echo chamber they built together. Because me? I was done being the background. The lease was still in my name. I'd been too stunned, too humiliated to deal with it when I left. Nina said she'd handle everything, which at the time felt like mercy. In hindsight, it was strategy. She knew as long as I still technically held the lease, I wouldn't pull the pin on anything legal. But by early fall, the calls started. Maintenance issues. Late rent notices. An HOA violation about a trash bin left out too long. She wasn't handling a damn thing. I went back. Not to confront. Not yet. Just to see it. I hadn't stepped foot inside since the day I found the phone. And even then, I'd been in and out like a ghost, breathing shallow, trying not to see things I didn't want to understand. This time, I looked. Front porch, the potted lavender she swore she'd keep alive was dead. Dry twigs and cracked ceramic. My old welcome mat had been replaced with one that said, "Good vibes only." That made me laugh. The key still worked. Of course it did. She didn't think I had it in me to show up. Place smelled like cheap cologne and microwave meals. The wall where our wedding photo used to hang was blank. But the nail was still there. I stood in the center of the room and listened. You know how houses remember things. The creaks, the groans, the way the air moves. It felt off. Like the bones of the place rejected them. Like it knew they didn't belong. I went to the guest room last. The one he stayed in. There were photos on the dresser. Just the two of them. One of them was taken at the lake. A weekend trip I'd planned months before the fallout. I wasn't in the picture. But I'd taken it. They'd gone back and reused my plans. I laughed. It sounded wrong. Like someone else's voice in my throat. And then I did something petty. I unplugged the router. Took the modem with me. Left the cords. Then I left the front door wide open. Let the house breathe again. The next day, Nina texted. "Did you go to the apartment? That's really immature." I didn't reply. She followed it up with, "I thought we agreed to be civil." "We never agreed on anything," I wanted to say. "You staged a coup and called it closure." Instead, I sent her a photo of the lease termination notice. And one word, handled. I moved into a small place across town. 1 bedroom. No history. Clean walls. No ghosts. At first, I hated how quiet it was. But eventually, the silence stopped feeling like punishment. I bought a new bed. A good one. Didn't want any furniture that reminded me of her. The guy at the store asked if I was starting over. I just nodded. Every night I came home, there was peace. No fake laughs from the kitchen. No locked doors in my own house. No cold shoulders with warm excuses. Just me. Breathing. Last week, Eric tried to call. No idea why. No voicemail. Just a missed call at 2:13 a.m. Maybe she left him. Maybe she didn't. Maybe he's just bored now that I'm not his favorite game. Either way, I blocked the number. I don't need to know. Let them rot in the empire they stole. Let them make a meal out of each other's lies. Because me? I'm not angry anymore. But I do sleep well knowing this. They spent months planning my destruction like it was chess. But in the end, all they won was a burned-down board. It's been almost a year now. Funny how fast time moves once you stop bleeding. Most days I don't think about them. I really don't. I wake up, make my coffee, go for a run. My phone doesn't vibrate with guilt texts. My nights don't echo with her silence. The air in my place doesn't smell like his cologne anymore. But sometimes, just sometimes, it all comes rushing back. Like when I catch a glimpse of that flannel she stole, now folded in the back of my closet, I took it back, petty or not. Or when I see a couple sitting across from each other at a restaurant, not saying a word, eyes on their phones. That used to be us, right before the end. Back when I was still begging for something I couldn't name. I heard from her one more time, 3 months ago. Random Tuesday afternoon. She messaged me on a new number. Said she didn't expect a response, but hoped I was healing. Said she and Eric had taken some space. That things had been hard. That she regretted how it happened. I stared at the message for a full 10 minutes. There was no apology. No accountability. Just soft language. Fog words. A way to make herself feel better without actually owning anything. I deleted it. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Because she's not my problem anymore. You know what the worst part was? It wasn't losing the apartment. Or the friends. Or even her. It was the gaslighting. The weeks, months, of being made to feel like I was unraveling. Like I was the jealous husband. The overthinker. The intense one. Watching someone I trusted twist every boundary, every instinct, until I couldn't even tell which way was up. That's the part one still wake up remembering sometimes. The helplessness. But here's the truth I've carved out since. When someone spends that much energy convincing you you're the problem, you're not. People who love you don't build a campaign to erase you. They don't sleep next to you while plotting to replace you. They don't smile in your face while waiting for you to crack. Eric moved out of the state. Word got around that he tanked another job. Something about personality issues and lack of teamwork. I smiled when I heard that. Nina, last I heard, is back with her sister. No job. No Eric. Just a trail of scorched earth and silence. And me? I'm doing all right. I've got new friends. Real ones. I picked up a guitar again, something I hadn't touched since before the marriage. Started cooking for myself, too. Turns out I like spicy food. She never did. I've even been seeing someone. We take it slow. She listens when I talk. Doesn't flinch when I go quiet. Doesn't try to fix me, just sits with me in the space. It's not perfect, but it's honest. That's all I want now. Honesty over fireworks. Peace over passion. Truth over vibes. People think betrayal breaks you. It doesn't. It just shows you who was already holding the knife. I let them think they destroyed me, but what they really did was set me free.